All right, we're gonna step away from this presser for just a second. We do expect Paul Ryan to take some questions from the press assembled there, and when that part of the event happens, we'll go back to Washington. But I want to talk about a little bit about what Paul Ryan is prepared to do in the House of Representatives. And with me now is Peter Beinart. Who else do I got with me? Sabrina Schaefer. Oh, Sabrina. Okay, she's the executive director for the Independent Women's Forum. Welcome, Sabrina. I'm glad you're here. So, Sabrina, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, Peter. So, Sabrina, you're listening to this, and Paul Ryan says the House is going to use this one-time tool called reconciliation, which basically it means that when you introduce a bill, it requires a simple majority passage to get it to the president's desk, which means nobody can filibuster the bill and prevent it from going to the president's desk in its original form. Is this a good idea?
Well, yes, and as we are entering a political season right now, we are in the throes of it, and we're getting closer to when voters are going to go to the polls. Both Republicans and Democrats want to, more clearly define their principles and what they stand for. And so certainly we saw that yesterday with the president's address about gun control, and today we're seeing it with Republicans and health care. I mean, this is what has legs for 2016. They're saying, if you elect us, we will help roll back and ultimately repeal Obamacare. They're differentiating themselves from Democrats. It may be somewhat symbolic, but it could have some lasting impact on voter behavior.
Okay, so let's say this bill gets to the president's desk, Peter. It's going to repeal Obamacare and defund Planned Parenthood. I'm thinking the president will probably veto it.
Right. This is a real cliffhanger here, right? We're not sure what the president's going to do. I mean, how many times have they already voted against Obamacare? Everybody knows what ultimately is going to happen if this gets to Obama's desk. He's going to veto it. So this is not going to achieve anything except for potentially putting this more front and center in the 2016 presidential campaign. The question is, do Republicans really want this front and center in the presidential campaign? If you're noticing, the Republican presidential campaigns are not really focusing on repealing Obamacare. That's because although Obamacare is not overwhelmingly popular, repealing it means taking away certain things that actually people like, for instance, the fact that you can stay on your parents' plan until you're 26 years old. So I actually am not so sure. Tactically, for Paul Ryan, who has to appease his right-wing base in Congress, it may make sense. Do Republicans really want to make this a bigger issue in the 2016 campaign? I'm not sure it's such a smart idea for them.
Okay, so let's go back to Washington because Paul Ryan is now taking questions, I assume, so let's listen.
Do you see parallels between North Korea doing this and the deal cut with Iran, that perhaps they feel it's acceptable to do this type of thing after the U.S. deal?
That's a good question. We don't know the facts yet. This looks like a provocation. I think this means we have to have a well-honed response with our allies on this rogue regime. So I think it's a little early to say exactly what the response ought to be until we get all of the facts at hand. But it does clearly look like this is what took place.
Well, please stay.
Speaker, one of the complaints from Democrats is that you're putting forward this repeal bill before you put forward the alternative that you promised. Why do that? Why not just put up an alternative? Just wait.
On Hannity last night, you were asked about your agenda for this year, the tax reform and the health care replacement that you want to do. And he said, oh, so it's going to be like Contract with America, which makes it sound more like it's going to be a glossy pamphlet rather than actual bills. So I know that at the end of last year that was still under debate. I was wondering where you're leading at this point.
Yeah, Jonathan, we all collectively, members of the House Republican Conference, are going to be the decision makers. We are just beginning this decision-making process. What we envision here is an organic, bottom-up process where all members, after listening with our constituents, are coming together to put together a bold pro-growth agenda that we offer to the American people. So the form and the process of this agenda is something that's going to be decided by all of our members, and we're beginning that conversation at our retreat.
That process include votes on specific bills?
Like just go back to my last answer. Nothing's been decided yet.
Yesterday, after the president's announcement, he said it would doubted it would survive the challenge of the courts. Will House Republicans sue to overturn?
We're looking at all of our options. Look, first of all, if you are buying and selling guns, you have to have an FFL, whether or not you do so at a gun show or anywhere else. There isn't a loophole. This is a distraction. The president clearly does not respect the Second Amendment rights for law-abiding Americans. I think it'd be nice if he would actually focus on defeating ISIS, on calling radical Islamic terrorism what it actually is, instead of talking about how we can intimidate and frustrate the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. We will look at all of our options, but we will not take this distraction for more than it is, a distraction.
Last question.
Okay. All right, so we're going to step away. Last question for Paul Ryan, but as you can see, he's talking tough on President Obama's agenda. Sabrina, I want to go back to you because I'm wondering, you know, the House is going to get this bill through that repeals Obamacare and defunds Planned Parenthood, and they want the president to look at it, and they want him to veto it so they can make a point. I'm just wondering, that will get, I mean, will Senator Rubio and Senator Cruz show up to vote on this, and will that help them?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to speak with their staff about that. But I do think that they have the upper hand here. Look, I think that this is always going to be a heavy lift. As Peter pointed out, Republicans are in the position now of telling some Americans they'd have to take something away, although there's plenty of Americans who are really unhappy with Obamacare. And there's a lot of people who are poised to lose their current plans in the next year or two as things continue to unfold. That being said, I think that, you know, what Paul Ryan understands, what all of the Republican candidates understand, is that if they want to appeal to a wider base, if they want to appeal to women, for instance, they really need to make the case that people are better off when they own and control the most important things in their lives: healthcare, education, the workplace, the marketplace, home. And that's what Republicans are trying to do. And if they can really sort of get their messaging together on this, I think they could go a long way.
Peter?
Yeah, good luck putting the defunding of Planned Parenthood front and center in the 2016 campaign. You know, most of what Planned Parenthood does, as the Democrats will rightly say, is women's health. Doesn't have anything to do with abortion. And for a Republican Party that's been struggling, not with all women, but especially with single and unmarried women, not to mention women of color, that's not going to be, I think, a very effective message. So I think the Republican Party, since 2014 and 2012, has recognized it has a problem in reaching out to new constituencies. But I would say the party is further away from where it needs to be, rather than closer.
All right, I have to leave it there. I have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Peter Biner, Sabrina Schaefer. I appreciate it.